All right, so this is the point where Goldie Hawn loses her memory, and then Kurt Russell convinces her that they're in a relationship and that she's in love with him.
Well, he seems to like you, and he's a nice guy.
Come to daddy.
This missing link person is not my husband.
Until death do us part.
An accident, huh?
So obviously we can tell from the trailers that this Bride of Frankenstein movie bears very little resemblance to the original Bride of Frankenstein movie, which was released in 1935 and has become regarded as somewhat of a masterpiece and one of the best sequels in movie history, actually. That being the case, it's probably safe to say that it's not the kind of movie that has a rabid fan base ready to lose their minds if this new one doesn't honor it, which is probably a good thing because this new Bride of Frankenstein movie is an embarrassing mess for everybody involved. It's just a hodgepodge of unoriginal ideas, anti-patriarchy slop, and one very big creative decision that does not connect. It all feels like Bonnie and Clyde meets Taxi Driver meets angsty teen love meets Overboard. Yes, that 1980s movie in which the lead female character loses her memory and the lead male character convinces her that they have been in love and in a relationship, and what's going to happen when she finds out the truth? Will their true love survive is the big question here. So what do you do with a Bride of Frankenstein movie in 2026 anyway? That's what Maggie Gyllenhaal wanted to know.
In the original Bride of Frankenstein, the bride is in it for 2 minutes and she doesn't speak one word. And when I saw that movie, it made me think, wait, I want to know what she has to say. I want to know what she's thinking and feeling.
Well, apparently the Bride of Frankenstein from 1935 was decades ahead of her time because she thinks exactly the way modern day liberals and feminists in Hollywood think. Of course, they had to make a Bride of Frankenstein movie with modern day politics because that's just the way it's done these days. And because the bride appears for about 2 minutes on screen and has 0 lines of dialogue in the original Bride of Frankenstein movie, and because this isn't really based on any kind of Mary Shelley story, it's carte blanche for Maggie Gyllenhaal to graft whatever she wants onto the Bride of Frankenstein. So we get 2 hours of every male character that's not Frankenstein's monster being either a disgusting misogynistic pig or a neutered man baby, and the problems they all cause. They even have that scene that we've seen several times now where we open on a bad guy's hand as he's reaching for some gross food and then he shovels it into his mouth with his fingers, letting us know that he's a disgusting bad man. And then he goes on and talks about the importance of a man having a side piece so that we know that he's gross both inside and out. I mean, he's a really bad guy. So this movie is not only unoriginal, it's totally boring. I got the showtimes wrong and I got to the theater 20 minutes early, a tragic mistake because that means I finished my popcorn way too early, which means the next 2 hours were even more excruciatingly slow and painful. All right, so Maggie Gyllenhaal wrote and directed The Bride, which stars Jessie Buckley as the Bride of Frankenstein, Christian Bale as the Frankenstein's monster. It's also got Jake Gyllenhaal, Penelope Cruz, Peter Sarsgaard, and I'm a fan of pretty much everybody involved in this movie. Maggie Gyllenhaal, I've liked her work in the past. She wrote and directed this. Jessie Buckley stars as the Bride of Frankenstein. She was great in the season of Fargo that she did. I just recently watched her in a movie called I'm Thinking of Ending Things that she did with Jesse Plemons. They were both fantastic. It's a Charlie Kaufman where it's not his best one, but definitely worth checking out. So I've been really enjoying Jessie Buckley lately. Christian Bale plays the monster. I mean, he's doing what Christian Bale does. For the most part, it seems like he knows he's there and he's not going to really get hurt too much by this if this bombs, which it's more than likely going to. Jake Gyllenhaal, Maggie's brother, of course, is in this. He plays a singer, dancer, movie star. He's in these black and white musicals that Frankenstein's monster, we're just calling him Frank now, is obsessed with this Jake Gyllenhaal character. Penelope Cruz and Peter Sarsgaard are also in it. Big fans of both of them. They play detective partners who are hot on the trail of Frank and the bride. Okay, so about that big artistic swing here that just doesn't land, and I do like what Jessie Buckley is doing with it, partly. The movie opens with possibly drunk Mary Shelley, also played by Jessie Buckley. Mary Shelley is in some sort of like black and white interdimensional void, and she's just kind of thinking out loud, and she's talking about how there should have been a sequel to Frankenstein, and she's wondering how all that would have gone or how it would go. Now, this just straight up feels like Maggie Gyllenhaal thinking out loud about how she wants to make her Bride of Frankenstein movie and then writing that down. This feels like a very modern thing in writing these days, is just the heavy-handedness of the writer in the work, not being able to take themselves out of it. So it seems like she didn't really have an idea. She didn't land on an idea. She just started writing her own process for what she was writing for the movie and gave that to Mary Shelley. And then Mary Shelley, as she's making up in this movie, she's making up a fictional character. Like the pre-bride, she calls her Ida, played by Jessie Buckley. And then Mary Shelley, stay with me here, decides to enter into this Ida character and take her over in the story within the movie. Okay, so the framing here, and we keep going back to this throughout the movie, is we've got an in-movie fictional character who is being possessed by a fictional version of Mary Shelley, who is being possessed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. And this is the really wacko part. Mary Shelley keeps taking over the bride's body, like throughout the movie. And she's this raging feminist, raging against society and the patriarchy. And the bride can't control this. So it comes across as though she's got like Mary Shelley's Tourette syndrome and a horrible case of word association. She'll hear somebody else say a word or herself say a word and then just compulsively rattle off several variations of the word. So it's not really a character as much as it is just a collection of tics. And acting, capital A, exclamation point, acting. So anyway, this woman gets possessed by Mary Shelley and she's freaking everybody out because she's acting like Venom. And then there's these misogynistic men and a flight of stairs. And then the next thing you know, Frankenstein's monster is digging her up with the help of Annette Bening's character, a scientist who's helping Frank to cure his loneliness. Frank convinces the scientist to bring a woman back to life so that he can have a companion. And this is one of the most anticlimactic moments in movies this century, is the reanimation process. This is a Frankenstein story. It's 2026. This should look awesome. This is a story in which hundreds of thousands of volts of electric energy are pumped into a corpse to try to reanimate it. And this is the effect that we get. A negative exposure. It's 2026, and we get an effect that you could literally recreate on a 10-year-old cell phone. We get like 20 seconds of her getting zapped in negative exposure, and then she's just sitting up in bed. Weak. All right, so this is the point where Goldie Hawn loses her memory, and then Kurt Russell convinces her that they're in a relationship and that she's in love with him.
Well, he seems to like you, and he's a nice guy.
Come to daddy.
This missing link person is not my husband.
Until death do us part.
An accident, huh?
And if you've seen the trailers, you know how the rest of this goes. They go on a cross-country chase. They go to New York. They're being pursued by two of the worst detectives in movie history, Penelope Cruz and Peter Sarsgaard. And they've got their whole own gender oppression subplot thing going on. And again, I like both of these actors. Penelope Cruz especially is miscast as the detective who is constantly overlooked because she's a woman. Their whole subplot is just stupid, from the gender oppression thing to the genius detective work. And the last scene that Penelope Cruz is in is cringeworthy. It feels like they said, why don't we just try this real quick? We'll set this up. You stand over here. You say this. We're going to try it. They tried it once. They said, let's run with it. It's like a video game cutscene, which is an insult to video game cutscenes. This movie wishes it could be a video game cutscene. Jake Gyllenhaal gets off a little bit easy here, even though he's kind of wasted. He plays this movie star, a black and white era musical singing and dancing movie star that Frank becomes obsessed with. And Jake, actually, I don't know if it's him doing the singing and dancing, especially the dancing part, but if it is him, kudos to him, because he was looking pretty good. And it's all just a bunch of misunderstandings. The movie just bends over backwards to portray Frank and the bride as the victims. They're just victims of circumstance here. They're not really trying to hurt anybody. One of the cops literally tells the other cops, She didn't mean to do it. She was just talking. And also literally killed people. I wish I could say it looked awesome, but it didn't. There was a lot of stuff that it felt like they didn't have the budget or the time to get the coverage. Again, the reanimation scene. There's an attack scene in the club where some thuggos start, harassing the bride, and Frank has to come in and save them. And it was like, you can't even really tell what's going on. They didn't even get the coverage. There's just a bunch of quick blurry scenes, and then they're out of there, and then they're on their adventure. All right, and having seen the movie now, I guess I understand that I wasn't the target demographic for it. But shouldn't I kind of have been? Like, shouldn't adult males have factored into it just a little bit? And I'm not saying that it should have been made exclusively for adult males, but name another demographic that would be more interested in a movie that's a remake of a black and white film that was released before World War II. Anyway, this movie could have been really cool. As it is, it feels like it was made for 13-year-old girls circa 1994. Oh, the teen angst of it all. Anyway, have you seen The Bride? Are you going to go see The Bride? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, hit like, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.